Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something pretty amazing. Um, Plants and sound.
Plants and sound.
Yeah. So get this, we're looking at a chapter from a book, and it's all about how plants sense the world around them.
Interesting.
And it's full of all this wild research.
Right.
Like how plants might be reacting to the sounds of insects, maybe even communicating using clicks.
Wow.
Ready to have your mind blown?
I'm ready.
All right. So picture this. A bat in a Cuban rainforest using echolocation to find a flower.
Echolocation to find a flower.
Yeah, and the flower is specifically designed to reflect sound back to it. It's like a beacon in the dark.
That's a pretty amazing example of coevolution. The bat gets food, the flower gets pollinated.
Right.
But what's really interesting is how important sound is for a plant's survival. You know, they can't just run away when there's danger.
Right, they're rooted.
Exactly. So sound becomes super important for figuring out what's happening around them.
Like their sixth sense.
Yeah, you could say that.
So are they actually hearing? Or just feeling the vibrations? I mean, they don't have ears.
Well, for a long time, scientists thought they were just reacting to vibrations. But new research is showing that it's a lot more complicated than that.
Really?
There was this groundbreaking experiment where they used, get this, guitar pickups.
Guitar pickups on plants?
Yeah, to record how the plants reacted to different sounds.
Okay, so like a plant rock concert. What did they find?
They found that plants reacted in a very specific way to the sound of caterpillars chewing on their leaves.
No way.
Yeah, they actually started producing defensive chemicals as if they were under attack.
Wow. So they're not just reacting to any random vibration. They're actually recognizing specific sounds that are important to their survival.
Exactly. It's not just a simple, stimulus and response. It suggests a way more sophisticated level of processing than we thought.
So they're kind of thinking about it.
In a way, yeah.
This is incredible. So this whole idea of plants and sound has spawned a whole new field of research, phytoacoustic. What's that all about?
It's basically the study of how plants perceive and respond to sound.
Ooh.
It's a rapidly growing field, and it could have a big impact, especially in agriculture.
Okay, I'm definitely interested. What kind of impact? Like, could we use sound to actually help plants grow?
Imagine using specific sounds to, help plants grow faster or resist pests or even take up more nutrients.
Wow. So how do plants hear if they don't have ears?
Well, scientists think those tiny hairs on leaves, the trichomes, might be playing a key role.
Trichomes. I always thought those were just there to make the leaves fuzzy.
They do that too. But they might also be acting like tiny antennae, picking up sound vibrations from the air.
Like little ears?
Kind of. It's similar to how our ears work, converting those vibrations into signals the brain can understand.
Right.
Now, obviously, plants don't have brains, but they do have really complex signaling pathways that help them respond to the information.
So they're processing the information in their own way. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. Some researchers think that flowers might have actually evolved to hear their pollinators.
It's a fascinating idea.
There was a study with evening primroses and bees. What did they find?
Well, they found that the evening primroses actually increased the sweetness of their nectar when they detected the sound of a bee's wings.
Like they're saying, hey, bee, come over here. I've got something good.
Exactly. And the shape of the flower is really important, too.
Oh, ho, so.
It acts like a natural resonance chamber, amplifying the sound of those bee wings.
Wow, so the flower isn't just passively waiting for a bee to find it. It's actually attracting them using sound. That completely changes how we think about plant-insect interactions.
It does. And it's not just above ground where plants are using sound. There's also amazing research on how roots respond to sound as well.
Okay, let's dig into that. I'm all ears. Why should I say all roots?
You could say that. There was this one study where they played the sound of running water to pea plants.
Interesting.
What do you think happened?
I'm going to guess they grew towards the sound.
You got it. The roots actually grew towards the sound even though there wasn't any real water there.
So they're like, listening for water. That's wild. What happens when they figure out it's just a sound?
Well, that's the cool part. When they had the choice between the sound of water and actual water, they went for the real deal.
So they're not just blindly following any sound. They're actually figuring out what's real and what's not. It's like those tree roots that always get into pipes. Are they listening for leaks?
That's a great point. Being able to hear water can be good or bad for them, depending on the situation.
This is really making me rethink how plants experience the world. It makes you wonder, could they be communicating with each other?
Now we're getting into some really interesting territory. Plants actually make these clicking sounds called cavitation clicks.
Cavitation clicks. What's that?
It happens when air bubbles in their stems pop.
That sounds kind of sci-fi.
It does, right. But it's a real thing, and researchers are trying to figure out if it's more than just random noise.
So what makes them think it could be communication?
Well, they've recorded these clicks and found that they're different depending on the type of plant and even how healthy the plant is.
So a thirsty plant might make a different click than a happy one.
Exactly. And get this, they've been able to use machine learning to figure out what's going on with a plant just by listening to these clicks.
Hold on. Machine learning is listening to plants now.
It is. And it could be a game changer for agriculture. Farmers could listen to their crops to see how they're doing.
That's mind-blowing. But the big question is, are other plants listening to these clicks and reacting?
There's some really interesting research that suggests plants might be more tuned in to the sounds of their own species. Like a corn plant might react differently to the clicks of another corn plant than to the clicks of a different kind of plant.
So like they're recognizing their family.
Yeah, something like that. And it opens up all these possibilities for how they're interacting with each other. Could they be sharing information about food or warning each other about danger or even coordinating how they grow? We're really just starting to explore these questions.
It really feels like we're changing how we think about plants. This whole field is really pushing the limits. Speaking of pushing limits, there's this scientist, Monica Gagliano, whose work on plant intelligence and sound has caused quite a stir.
Monica Gagliano is a really interesting researcher who's asking some really big questions about plants. Her work is definitely challenging the way we usually think, and it's sparked a lot of debate, but it's also really inspiring.
I've read that she uses some pretty unique methods in her research. She even includes things like felt sense and intuition. You don't really see that in science very often.
You don't. But Gagliano argues that these approaches can give us a better understanding of what it's like to be a plant. Her work has definitely shaken things up in the science world. Some scientists aren't sure about her methods or her conclusions, but she's really got people talking about plant intelligence and consciousness.
Even if some of her findings are controversial, I think it's important to have researchers like her who are willing to ask those big questions and challenge our assumptions.
Absolutely. That's how science moves forward. Gagliano's work has helped us to think more broadly about what plants might be capable of, and it's inspiring others to explore these questions in different ways.
So what are some of the things Gagliano is saying about plants and sound?
One of her most famous studies involved teaching pea plants to connect the sound of a fan with light. She says the plants learn to expect the light based on the sound, which would be a kind of associative learning.
That's amazing. If plants can learn like that, it really changes how we see their abilities. But you said before that some scientists aren't so sure about her findings. What are their concerns?
Some scientists have questions about how she designed her experiments and analyzed her data. Others have pointed out that it's been difficult to repeat her findings.
So there's still a lot of debate, and more research is needed to confirm her claims. But no matter what, her work has definitely pushed the boundaries of plant science and got us thinking about the possibility of plant intelligence and communication. This whole idea of plants communicating, it makes me wonder, could they be communicating with other living things too?
It's a fascinating idea. If plants are using sound to communicate with each other, it's not impossible that they could be sending and receiving signals to other organisms in their environment.
Imagine a forest where trees are warning each other about bugs or flowers, or calling to pollinators with secret songs. It's like a whole world of communication that we're just starting to understand.
It's a beautiful and thought-provoking idea, and it really shows how complex and interconnected the natural world is. Every living thing, from the smallest bug to the tallest tree, is part of this amazing web of life.
This has been such a mind-opening journey. We've gone from flowers that bats can find with sound to machine learning that can diagnose plants by their clicks. And we've explored the controversial but fascinating work of Monica Gagliano, who's making us rethink what we know about plant intelligence and communication.
It's been an amazing journey, and we're really just starting to understand the world of plant bioacoustics. There's so much more to discover, and I think the things we learn in the next few years will continue to challenge our ideas and show us how incredibly clever nature is.
I totally agree. So, to everyone listening, next time you're outside, take a moment to really listen. You might be surprised by what you hear. Who knows, maybe you'll even start to hear the whispers of the plant world, a world that's way more complex and connected than we ever imagined.
It's definitely worth listening to.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We've been talking about all this amazing stuff with plants and sound, how they might be hearing, learning, and even communicating.
Yeah, it really changes how we see plants.
Before we finish up, I want to talk about what this all means,
Yeah.
for how we understand nature. What does it mean if plants are really doing all this?
It definitely makes us rethink our place in the world. We're not just watching nature happen, we're part of it. Everything we do, every sound we make, it can affect everything around us, even the plants.
It makes you think about, like, blasting music in the garden.
Right. So if plants are so sensitive to sound, could we use sound to help them?
That's an interesting thought. Could
Yeah.
we, use certain sounds to help them grow better?
It's definitely something to explore. Imagine using specific frequencies to, help them grow or take up nutrients or even keep pests away.
Almost like composing music for plants. Could we be writing symphonies for them one day?
Maybe not symphonies just yet, but there's definitely potential for using sound in new ways to help plants thrive.
So the more we learn about plant bioacoustics, the better we can understand plants and find ways to live with them better.
Exactly. The more we can understand nature's language, the better we can take care of our planet.
Well said. This deep dive has been amazing. We've talked about everything from flowers that bats can hear to the idea that plants might be eavesdropping on each other, and even the work of Monica Galliano, who's really pushing the boundaries of what we know.
It's been a great journey, and the world of plant bioacoustics is really just getting started. Who knows what we'll discover as we keep listening and learning from plants.
So to everyone listening, go outside and really listen to the world around you. You might be surprised by what you hear, not just from birds and bugs, but from the plants too. Thanks for joining us